and just get started. Again, I hope our attendees can hear and see us. Feel free to message if you have any problems into the chat section. Oh. Okay, great. Thank you, guys. I see it. I was waiting for the questions on the side. Okay, guys, so this is session 1C. This is our rental relief emergency assistance panel. If you are in the wrong panel, you are more than welcome to stay. If not, if you just go ahead and go back to the conference page, you can go ahead and enter the panel that you had been aiming for. There will be some Q&A at the very end of the panel. So feel free to ask any questions and I will go ahead and I will read it to our presenters and we will provide as many answers as we possibly can. Emails will be provided in the presentation so that if we aren't able to get to any questions or if a question appears, after the session is complete, you'll have everybody's emails to go ahead and follow up on that. So I'm happy to introduce our panelists. We have Lori Suhako, and she is the director of Maui County's Department of Housing and Human Concerns. Lori has been involved in the field of homelessness for many, many years, and she is a member of the Maui Homeless Alliance and strongly supports our collective efforts to end homelessness. Our other panelist who will be joining us in just a moment is Sharon Hirota. She returned to the County of Hawaii Office of Housing and Community Development after working for Mayor Harry Kim's administration as an executive assistant. Under the mayor's leadership, she was charged with working with and building collaborative partnerships with community-based organizations, which included finding solutions for the most vulnerable community members. Next, we have Angela Bresnahan, and she is with the Maui County Housing Agency and is overseeing the Emergency Rental Assistance and Homeowners Assistance Pilot Program for Kauai's County. Angela began her career as an attorney, but spent 10 years working in the nonprofit sector before joining the housing agency. And then last but certainly not least, we have Kanalu Severson, and he is the Director of Emergency Financial Assistance at the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement, an administrator of the City and County of Honolulu Rental and Utility Relief Program, and the administrator of the Department of Hawaiian Homeland's Rental and Utility Relief Program. Under Kainalu's leadership, both programs were nationally recognized by the U.S. Department of the Treasury as the top 6 high-performing emergency rental assistance programs. So we have an amazing group of panelists today, and I hope you enjoy this presentation. I will go ahead and pass it on to Lori to get us started.
Thank you very much, Berta, and thank you to Dick and the organizing committee for having us here today. Can we go on to the first slide, please? Thank you. So as most of you are aware, the federal government passed through funding for emergency rental and utility assistance. For the County of Maui, those funds came as a pass-through from the state of Hawaii. Other jurisdictions like Oahu and the County of Hawaii receive their own allocations directly from the federal government. So we started our program on May 10th. The county did a procurement and Catholic Charities was selected as our vendor to actually provide the assistance to our community members. So I'm going to be going through these slides pretty quickly. Those of you who have clients or who have family and friends who needed this assistance are probably very familiar with these very broad sort of stroke eligibility statements about our program. These slides are put together by Catholic Charities who partnered with Maui Economic Opportunity here on Maui to provide assistance to our community. So we know in broad strokes, $2,500 were available per month for back rent and utilities with a 15-month cap. This program is not for homeowners, right? So I think many homeowners mistakenly thought that they were eligible for some help with mortgages, but this program does not do that. We have other programs that help to address mortgages. One of the nice features of this program is that we also can address prospective payments. That means payment ahead of them becoming due. Next, please, Berta. So what Catholic Charities helped us do is they helped us create a system based on how they administered funds in the city and county of Honolulu for a pre-screen. So the acronym MERA stands for Maui Emergency Rental Assistance. Next, please. So what we did at the county is we put a lot of the information about this program, the eligibility, the process for making an application on county websites. We did a lot of social media campaigns. We've done collaborative work with other agencies in the community to try and get most of the a lot of this information into the community so that people wouldn't be frustrated if they were deemed ineligible, right? So I think it's the news of the availability of these funds came at a good time. Many people needed it, but then, as I said earlier, there's eligibility criteria that we as a grantee have to follow as well. So we did things like you're seeing on the screen right now, which is posting this information on county websites and actually having a separate website that contained all the same information. Next, please. So this just give you a picture of some of the drop-down menus that were used. Catholic Charities was exceptional in developing these sort of online forms that would help people who were able to access computers and internet service to apply. Their partnership with MEO was also based on our knowledge that there are many people in the community who don't have access or to computers and internet and who don't have expertise or proficiency in using online tools like this. So MEO is a hands-on agency that provided a lot of the outreach into outlying communities in the county to ensure that those communities had access to this assistance as well. Next, please. So these are some of the questions that we're using in the pre-screening process. Really basic questions. Next, please. So once somebody was pre-screened and deemed potentially eligible for the program, the process moved from pre-screen to a process of full application. Next, please. So at some point, you know, when there were a good deal of pre-screening applications sort of floating around in the space of Catholic Charities and MEO, we began to just go full on into the application process if people appeared to have eligibility. So next, please. And then we made sure that we often when we talked about this program at our county council meetings or in community gatherings, we wanted to stress to applicants that certain documents were required for program eligibility. Next, please. And these are some of the, yeah, it's okay, we can scroll through these. These are some of the things that we used as the program got further developed and we got more guidance from the Treasury. We also used presumptive eligibility based on other benefits. So if a person was a recipient of SNAP or a tenant in public housing, we assume that some of that income documentation has already been validated by other federal sources or other state sources. And so we assign presumptive eligibility. Next, please. Okay, so this just gives you more idea of some of what was required, especially at the onset of the program. Next, please. Again, social security numbers were important for household members. Go ahead. We also needed valid lease and rental agreements when requests came in for paying rent. Next, please. So this gives you just a list of some of the validation that we required to prove COVID impacts on the financial situation of the applicant and their household. Next, please. So most of you may be aware that this program allowed us to pay for rent in arrears up until March or from March 2020. So that's sort of the date that we was our beginning cutoff date. Next, please. So this slide sort of gives you an idea of some of the documents that were considered necessary for eligibility validation and some documents that were not acceptable. Go ahead. Okay, so this one is pretty easy. These are some of the things that we needed in order to validate that a household had rent in arrears or utility in arrears. Next, please. So housing instability was one of the areas that was a little bit more challenging to determine, and Catholic Charities and Maui Economic Opportunity did a good job of working with the applicants to obtain verification to support housing instability status, which also assisted us in being able to provide that aid to them. Next, please. So one of the things that was most impressive about Catholic Charities is the way that they created a system to allow applicants to go back into a database and check on the status of their application. That helped to, I think, mitigate some anxiety and help the recipients to understand sort of a timeline of when their landlords or the utility companies could expect to get payments. Next, please. So this is the one that I want to focus on, and this is actually my last slide. You know, this is as of, I think, Monday. Through this program, the county and our partners at Catholic Charities and MEO have been able to pay out almost $14 million in rent for our residents. We've also paid out approximately $563,000 in utilities. So, you know, we see trends in, it goes in cycles, but the applications for assistance has been pretty steady, I would say. The agencies have completed over 3,000 pre-screenings. Over 2,600 households have responded to the invitation to submit a full application. There's only been 348 denials, and most of those denials are based on ineligibility. And over 2,100 households have been provided assistance thus far. So the other thing that I wanted to mention is that the county of Maui has for many years funded what's called the rental assistance program for vendors provide assistance to households that may need a portion of their rent paid, graduated down over a period of time. They have to show, the recipients have to show sustainability. That means they have to be able to, at some point, pay that full rent on their own. But what has been really nice about this emergency rental assistance program is that Catholic Charities and MEO, which is one of our program vendors, have all worked together with the other vendors to deduplicate assistance so that we're not going to run into issues when inevitably we get audited for this program. So I'm really proud of our social service system that's worked collaboratively to do that over the past few months. So Berta, I'm done with my formal presentation. I thank you and PIC and your statewide partners for allowing me to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lori. I do know we do have a question. I just fear that some of our attendees might want to jump to panels, and since this question's coming so early, I just figured we'd read it out. Attendees are wondering, is this rent relief program still available with Catholic Charities Hawaii?
Yes, it is in Maui County.
All right, thank you so much. And then next we're going to go to Sharon. Thank you so much, Lori.
Hi, good morning. Sharon Hirota with the County of Hawaii, with the Office of Housing and Community Development. So thank you for providing us with the space to provide information about the work that we're doing here on Hawaii Island. So you can go to the next slide. So as much as we've been working alongside the other counties within the state in the administration of the Emergency Rent Assistance Program, I also like to always put and utilities, because people go, you only paying rent? Well, we pay rent and utilities. But of course, we're using the federal acronym, and they didn't include it, but I do. I also want to just highlight some of the other work that I think is related in regards to the landlord-tenant mediation program we stood up, and recently our financial empowerment centers, as well as the launch of the homeowner assistance funds, which I think goes hand in hand in just our work collectively to address the needs of our Hawaii Island residents. So you can go to the next one. So as Laurie indicated in her presentation, for the most part, we're all working under the federal guidelines, as Laurie indicated. There are certain required documents and application process, and ensuring the non-duplication of financial assistance to those requesting it. So the County of Hawaii did get a direct allocation from the U.S. Department of Treasury, a little over $12 million, so $12.8 million, and then got a $6.1 million as a subaward through the state, giving us a total of $18.9 million to disperse to those households that were either directly or indirectly impacted by the pandemic. So next slide. And so the county took a different approach based on lessons learned from its first round of managing the rent and mortgage assistance program in 2020, which worked here. And so we used the same model going forward when we issued our request for proposal. We launched our program back in April with one lead agency, and they turned around and then subcontracted with 6 on-island nonprofits in the delivery of services. We're using one management data to track and manage applications, again, to ensure non-duplication, but it's also to ensure consistency in the delivery of the program. And what this has done is allowed us to have 6 back offices, so to speak, processing application to manage the volume that we had anticipated coming based on the need on Hawaii Island. We also modified some of our the allowable work under the guidelines to allow for some housing stability services that now include assistance for rental deposits, payment of temporary hotel and motel stays, and in totality still not exceeding the total of the 15 months. You can go to the next slide. For us, it's similar to all the other counties. Our program can only help primary residents here on the County of Hawaii, 80% AMI and below, and must show the connectivity back to the pandemic, whether directly or indirectly. And that was something that was the U.S. Treasury, when they became a little bit more flexible, we were able to help provide the assistance, especially to those who had to make some difficult choices when they were when we were in the heat of the pandemic. So, and then our payments go directly to landlord, property managers, or utility companies, similar to the other counties. Okay. So as I mentioned, we next slide. We did some contract amendments allowing for housing stability services, and we also extended our contract with our contractor. And so our contract, for at least the first round of funding, goes through June 30th of 2022, or when our funds are exhausted. Similar to the other counties, we also stood up a website dedicated to the program. It provides access in various languages, and our contractor was really good to ensure that for the various more common non-English languages, there were individuals working in one of the nonprofits that would be able to help families if English was their second language. It also allows us to track in real time our outcomes, and where the services were being delivered to, or where we were receiving applications from, and where applications were being approved, so that we could make changes and modifications in our outreach and marketing. Okay, next slide. So our partners on Hawaii Island, Hawaii Community Lending is our lead, and they are working with these 6 nonprofits on island, ensuring total coverage north, south, east, west of our island. So people in the households have a choice to choose to work with any one of these 6 nonprofits on island. So next slide. So thus far, we've approved, as of last week, Saturday, because that's the most current data I had at the time, a little over 1,200 applications, helping over 3,000 individuals in these approved households, paying out $8.4 million in financial benefits. We've conducted 51 financial counseling sessions and have connected 24 of these households to housing navigators because of the need for them to relocate to another unit. You can go to the next one. So as I mentioned, when we modified as allowable by the federal government to include some housing stability services, we're now on contract with Legal Aid Society to provide connectivity to legal advice if needed. We're connecting to providing financial counseling as needed, housing navigation assistance. We're ready to launch our pilot coordination center, which is a call center allowing people to have one number to call and help them navigate the different resources. Lastly, we also are connected with a nonprofit that have turned around and hired what we call community resource navigators. These are individuals who live and work in different various communities and have been connecting with their neighbors, friends, and families within their specific communities to inform them about the various benefits that are available. And it seems to be working because we're seeing an increase in the number of applications coming into our emergency rent assistance program. So next slide. So just briefly, as I mentioned, landlord-tenant mediation program as required under Act 57 was deployed. So next slide. We're on contract with our mediation centers in both East and West Hawaii to deliver the services. Next one. Next is the launch of our financial empowerment centers on Hawaii Island. You can go to the next slide. In partnership with our funders, the Cities for Financial Empowerment and Hawaii Community Foundation, we are working in providing a safe space, offering free financial one-on-one counseling services in partnership with Hawaii First Federal Credit Union and Hawaiian Community Assets. And then we have several of our community partners who have indicated that they're interested in integrating the referral as part of the delivery of services. We also is working with Hawaii Community College advanced program. They took the New York developed curriculum and then infused Hawaii values and who we are as a community into the curriculum, but also ensuring that based on this curriculum, our counselors, potential counselors would be able to pass the FEC counseling certification. So next. So like any other program, they will, once they're connected to our FEC, they'll complete a financial health assessment, and together with the counselor, the families will develop their plan to address some of their barriers and to define where they want to be 6 months from now, a year, 2 years, and help. And we would help guide them, not we, but the counselors will help guide them in achieving certain outcomes. So this is just a brief overview. Okay, next one. And so the last information I wanted to share was Kauai County and Hawaii County launched, you can go to the next slide, this past Tuesday, November 16th, the pilot program of the homeowner assistance program, now providing homeowner assistance to those that homeowners that were impacted through mortgage assistance and other, connect them to resources that may be available to this program. Hawaii Community Lending is our lead contractor for both Hawaii Island as well as Kauai. Okay, next. And if you need more information and you're on Hawaii Island, feel free to contact me. This is my contact information. And thank you again. Thank you, Bertha, for keeping us together and doing all the behind the scenes. I really appreciate it. And thanks to Pick and Bridging the Gap for coordinating all of this and allowing us a space to share. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Sharon. And don't worry, I know there's a lot of, to our attendees, there's a lot of information, a lot of slides, some links you might want to check out. This will all be made available to our attendees after the conference as well. So don't worry. And then next we have Angela with Kauai County. Take it away, Angela. Thank you.
All right, Berta, if you could bring up my slides, thank you. Aloha, Angela Bresnahan, overseeing the COVID-19 Rent and Utility Assistance Program for the island of Kauai. Also the Homeowner Assistance Program, which we launched a pilot in coordination and collaboration with Hawaii County. Our website is hawaiirenthelp.com. Next slide, please, Berta. So the CRUA assistance as of this weekend and as of this morning, actually, we've received around 2,000 applications. We have approximately 350 that are in the pipeline being processed currently. Those delays are due to gathering the necessary paperwork from the applicants. If we have all of the information in hand, we can process applications in as little as 1 to 2 days and get the check cut. 1,266 applications have received assistance or been approved for assistance. And as of this morning, before this presentation, we had just hit the $12 million mark. So $12 million in assistance to our island of Kauai is a big deal and a nice infusion into our economy. We have a $4,500 cap. Otherwise, our program is largely the same as others. But those familiar with Kauai know that there are areas that you really can't find anything to rent for less than that. We've only denied 270 applicants. We can process applications the same day if an applicant is facing eviction. So if you ever have any clients or people in that situation, please reach out and we will streamline them and move them very quickly through the application process. Kauai Government Employees Federal Credit Union is the sole administrator of the program on Kauai, and just this week they changed their name to Kauai Federal Credit Union. We've also partnered with the YWCA, Kauai Economic Opportunity, and Legal Aid to provide the housing stability services. Next slide, please, Berta. So I anticipated that my co-panelists would have already talked about the broad application process and the Treasury requirements for the application process. So for my presentation, I would like to focus on the barriers to assistance that we have come into with the Kura program on Kauai. Next slide, please, Berta. First and foremost, the biggest problem that we are finding, and it is a significant problem, is the availability of housing. No matter how much rental assistance you have, if you can't find a place for people to rent, you can't help them. Next slide, please, Berta. This slide includes statistics compiled by Title Guarantee. It's 2021 through July. I focused on this time period because it was kind of the heat part of the crisis on our island. We just reopened, as many of you know, in April and May. And prior to that, we're closed to all tourism during COVID. So during this crisis period, the number of single family homes that were sold went up by 81%. And condominiums, they were up 107%. Vacant land was up 134%. We saw a lot of new influx of new visitors who were escaping COVID where they were currently living, and a lot from Silicon Valley who could now work remotely. The most telling statistics on this slide, in my opinion, are the last row of figures. This is the actual amount of money that changed hands for these homes. While the percentage of homes sold went up by 80%, which is a huge jump, the money that changed hands for these homes went up by 200%. For condominiums, up 143%. For vacant land, even up over 200%. Next slide, please. This slide shows the median sale price and the number of sales for each month from July 2020 through July 2021. As you can see by the highlighted figures, in July of 2020, 37 houses were sold for a median sale price of around $800,000. At the end of July of 2021, a year later, again, crisis period, pandemic, many of our people were not working because we have a high tourism-based industry and we had an extremely high rate of unemployment. And during that period, the median sale price went up $500,000 from $800,000 to $1.3 million. You can see that Maui was also up $300,000, Oahu $200,000, and Sharon, it looks like Big Island is the place to live this year. Next slide, please, Berta. Most renters that you talk to on Kauai, it says most renters, I'm going to change that, and I'm going to tell you that all of the applicants that call us, unless they rent from an extremely good friend or a close family member, they feel their housing is unstable. They know that prices are climbing dramatically. They know that 100 tenants are waiting to step into their place if they upset their landlord. Because of that $500,000 climb in housing value, obviously a lot of houses that were rentals were sold and are currently being sold. A lot of people are being asked to leave so that the house can be put on the market. That means the landlords that still do have rental units are literally flooded with hundreds of applications within a day of posting. Next slide, please, Berta. I mentioned to some economists at Hawaii Appleseed the current situation and my daily review of the Craigslist rental and our intake crew's problem with finding places to place applicants. And they took just a Craigslist snapshot of one day last month. And the number of posts seeking a rental was 51. Now, these are people who are so desperate for rental that they're posting pictures of themselves and their dog and their smile on Facebook saying what a great renter they're going to be. When they assessed the rentals available at the median wage of $22.50 per hour, they found 4 two-bedroom apartments requiring 2 full-time wage earners, which was kind of tricky for people in the past year. 1 one-bedroom apartment and 1 room in a shared home. So 51 people who are posting pictures of themselves, they're so desperate for home, and 6 landlords who have affordable homes to rent. So you can imagine the hundreds that are actually seeking a home and how many responses these 6 landlords received the day they posted this. Next slide, please, Berta. Thank you. According to the 2019 Hawaii Housing Planning Study, 18.6% of homes on Kauai are vacant. That includes seasonal vacation rentals. So at 18.6%, that means 1 out of every 5 houses on Kauai are either sitting empty or waiting for seasonal vacation rentals while other families are setting up tents in their friends' backyards. This is one of the highest vacancy rates in the nation. Next slide, please, Berta. So those are some contributing factors to why availability of housing has been a significant barrier to assistance for the PURA program. Another barrier has been illegal renters. Illegal rentals, excuse me. I don't mean to imply that these are bad actors, these landlords, but for whatever reason, their rentals are not legal. Most often it's small apartments that were built underneath their houses. Either they can't get a legal rental status or they don't want to go through the paperwork to do so. But every week we have applicants call us and say they want to retract their applications. Under this current program, under ERA-1 funding from the federal government, we are mandated to contact the landlord on several occasions through different channels prior to handing a check to the tenant to pay the rent. Because of fraud prevention purposes, the Treasury set it up that we are to pay the landlord directly. So once the landlord gets wind that their illegal rental and the address of their illegal rental is coming into, the state documents and being reported to the federal government, they understandably get very uneasy. So then these applicants are in between a rock and a hard place because they don't want to upset their landlord by not paying rent. They don't want to upset their landlord by applying for assistance. And they know that hundreds of other renters are waiting to take their place. Hopefully the illegal rental barrier will not be a problem with the ERA-2 funding, which will come into play next year on Kauai, because under ERA-2, we can work more directly with the tenant and not notify the landlord so many times. Next slide, please. The third barrier to assistance that's significant is getting applicants to apply. We have flooded the traditional media channels and the social media channels. We've worked with nonprofit partners to reach the vulnerable populations. We assess the program every single week and every single month to look at the statistics and make sure that we're hitting those vulnerable populations. We touch base with our nonprofit partners. But culturally, this is a lot of personal information that we're asking for, and a lot of paperwork that we're asking for. And as Lori mentioned, it's gotten easier over the course of the program because the Treasury has allowed us to accept self-certifications and eased the paperwork burden. But we're still finding the most luck by having, instead of just setting, we always had in-person assistance days where our intake crew would set up in random places throughout the community and throughout the island. What we're finding now is more a targeted personal assistance where we go into one hotel and we meet with their housekeeping staff. And even then, what actually works is if one member of the housekeeping staff has received assistance and was pleased with the program, then they help their coworkers apply for the program through an iPad instead of disclosing all of your most private information to a stranger. And the last reason is one that's personally devastating to me. As everyone attending this conference is well aware, many of these people are in a state of crisis and they're not in a place to be able to process an application and provide this documentation. They have children, they're trying to find a home, they've got 11 days left in their home, and it is not until they're in their sister's living room that they are actually able to call us and submit an application. And by then it's too late we can give them the assistance if they can find a place to rent, and we will help them try to find a place to rent, but that's very, very hard. So that is hard for us to see, is when we could have helped someone stay in their home, they gave up their home and now they can't find another. Next slide, please. So please reach out if you have any ideas of areas we're not hitting or things that we could be doing better. We welcome feedback. We will work with you if you want to work with us, if you have clients. If you can just get someone to call our intake crew. They will work up the case. They will take the time. They will be patient, understanding, and they will help. If you can just get someone to submit whatever information they can come up with in the application, our intake crew will reach out to them and hold their hands and complete the application. Also reach out to me, abresnahan@kauai.gov and kauaiRentHelp.com, our website. You can find information about the program and reach out to our intake crew. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angela. That was amazing. Thank you for speaking to the barriers that so many people face in this process. Next, we have Kainalu Severson, who is the Director of Emergency Financial Assistance at the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement. Take it away, Kainalu. Thank you.
Thank you, Berta. Yes, I'll be speaking on behalf of the City and County of Honolulu program. And I'm with the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement, one of the administrators. So I hope I can represent the whole program as a whole in this presentation. Next slide. So the City and County of Honolulu had contracted with two different nonprofits. One, Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement, which I represent, as well as Catholic Charities Hawaii, who, as Lori mentioned, is also administering the Maui program. So the Honolulu program services all of Oahu residents. So from windward side to the leeward side. I'd also like to put in a quick plug here that the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement also administers the Department of Hawaiian Homeland's Rental and Utility Assistance Program. So I'll be more than happy to field any questions in the Q&A regarding that program as well. Next slide. So here, as much as grand as these programs are, and as much as we're all in the perspective of systems and processes and controls, it's often good to kind of take a step back and see what exactly the impact that we're making on our communities. So I did want to share just one quick story, from one of our applicants. And it's stories like this that I'm sure I can speak for all of us here, that this is what keeps us going, and this is why we're doing the hard work with administering these programs. Next slide. So although this is under the umbrella of the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement and Catholic Charities Hawaii, I do want to express the collaboration throughout our entire community in order to dole out these funds to help everyone. Like this is a kako thing. This is not just two organizations. This is not just the city. So collectively, this is the type of capacity that we have. We have collectively over 150 local staff that we employ, and we have numerous partner organizations throughout the state, throughout Oahu, and throughout the continent. So this is overall like a very hands-on collaborative thing, the community helping the community. Next slide. So just some numbers for the impact to date, and that you can see that the vast scale that the Honolulu program has. But I think that's clear. All the density is on the island of Oahu, right? So to date, and this is a little outdated. We've dispersed 90 million so far. And I'm sure by the end of today, that number is going to hit the 100 million mark. And this means that we're like at this scale, we're dispersing close to $10,000 per household that gets approved. So this is like an incredible help for people that are faced with the housing stability due to COVID. This is a significant help for them to kind of get back on their feet and remain housed during this time. Next slide, please. So I'd just like to point out some of the successes of the Honolulu program. In the beginning of this summer, we were ranked the #1 dispersing program per capita in the nation. And this is with, I want to say, like at least 500 programs out there doling out these rental and utility assistance funds. So that's a huge accomplishment. And if we go to the next slide, we can see that most recently, the city program as well as the Department of Hawaiian Homelands program were ranked top 6. So with this ranking from the US Treasury, and we're proud to say, like, on behalf of all of Hawaii, we've unlocked the ERA2 fund. So only these top 6 programs are getting access to the next pot of funds under the Biden administration. So ERA2 will go through the state of Hawaii, doling out again to all the different counties. Next slide, please. So here, just a brief allocation of the different funds that are hitting the island of Oahu. So these are things that we assess on a daily basis, and this helps to determine where further outreach needs to go in order to be equitable amongst our community. For example, we have various nonprofit organization partners helping to provide funds over to, like, the Windward side as well as the Waianae Coast. So that wraps it up for me. For those that are interested in rental assistance on the island of Oahu, there's the website that you can go to. It's oneoahu.org/renthelp. Thankful to my fellow panelists here who described much more detail about the eligibility requirements needed, which will be applicable for the Oahu program as well. So that's where to go for help, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kainalu, and to all of our panelists. So we have our panelists' emails here on the final screen. We do have a couple questions that we're hoping our panelists can help us answer. So is there, can any of our panelists speak about emergency rental assistance funds available through DHHL in a little bit more detail, or just any further information we can go ahead and provide our attendees?
Of course, for the most information, go to hawaiiancouncil.org. There's a quick questionnaire there to kind of, since we administer so many different rental assistance programs, follow the questionnaire on the website and it'll show you, it'll point you in the direction where you need to go. But in general, the DHHL program services renters that are on the wait list. So not necessarily DHHL lessees, but those that are on the wait list, we will help with your rent there. We have a program that helps all Native Hawaiians across the state. So regardless if you're on the DHHL wait list or not, we're able to help. And we also have a program, a mortgage program that helps the DHHL lessees. But if you go to hawaiiancouncil.org, it'll facilitate what help is best for you.
Thank you so much. And I went ahead and I put that link as an answer into the chat if our attendees would like to look at that. We do have another question. If families are receiving rental assistance through the city already, but when it stops, can they apply with the Native Hawaiian advancement for rental assistance?
Yes, you can. I don't want to say you'll be eligible, but yes, you can apply. It's all under the same umbrella of U.S. Treasury funds, and we do have all the systems set up to match applications across the various programs that's going on. So I would encourage and invite you to apply, even though you've gotten help from the City of Honolulu program. Please reapply and we can assess your application.
Thank you so much. I went ahead and just put a brief summary in text also to answer that question. Did any other attendees have any more questions for our panelists? We'll just to give everyone just a couple more minutes to go ahead and type that out.
Berta, if I could just jump in and let everyone know that Hawaiians can apply for the ERA assistance through the county on Kauai. It's their choice if they want to go through DHHL or if they want to go through the county program, but they're very welcome to apply. And then also to speak to the question about if someone needs to be in an apartment to receive assistance, our program can help you with coming up with a security deposit for a new apartment and can also provide you with a commitment letter showing that you will be receiving prospective rent from our program that you can provide a potential landlord.
Thank you, Angela, for catching that. I actually have my Zoom chat in a whole nother screen over here. All right.
Berta, this is Lori. So, I think Angela makes a really good point, and so did Kainalu, and that is that, it doesn't hurt to apply for this, right? So, what we've seen here in Maui County is, I think, people get discouraged because in the middle of crisis, in the middle of all these other things changing, in order to apply for these assistance programs, we're asking them to be real organized, right? Have a copy of your lease, have a copy of your last utility bill, make sure you have your income statements from 2020, whatever. All of these things require organization. And sometimes organization is the last thing that people have when they're worried about how they're going to feed their kids that night. So, there's a certain degree of frustration, I think, that happens when you look at that application, even whether it's on paper or online, and you think, oh my God, do I have it in me to go do this one more time? And I'm sure that is overwhelming. But I think that is what, our vendors like Kainalu and his colleagues our colleagues at Catholic Charities and MEO are able to do, which is to sit with somebody or to dedicate that time and attention to an applicant and walk them through that process. So it's not so, it doesn't feel so all alone. It doesn't feel so overwhelming. And, Sharon's graphic also showed, and Kainalu's graphic showed as well, is how many people are actually working on the ground to get people vetted, to get the assistance out to them. So, those of you who are listening in, if you're working with clients, please, support them. Tell them, they might give up 15-20 minutes of their life, but if they're found eligible, they can have that piece of comfort, right? Of knowing that, I don't have to worry about the 7 months of rent I owe my landlord, because this will help me. And I think in the long run, it removes some of that heaviness, some of the worry, and some of the anxiety. And I think it's well worth the effort if we can help support these folks to actually get it done. So, you guys who are actually doing work on the ground with individual clients can help them by being that cheerleader, by being that handholder, by being that encouragement. Let's go do this. I can help you, right? So please do that, because trust me, the counties, each of us want the assistance to be provided. It's not like we're going to get to keep the money if we don't give it away. We're going to have to give it back, right? We want the assistance to be used. We want people to apply, to be found eligible, and we want them to get the help. So let's do that for everyone that we can.
Thank you so much, Lori. Did any of our panelists have anything else they wanted to add?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Laurie said. The counties in partnership with our nonprofits are really working hard to encourage people to not self-disqualify themselves, right? A lot of times we hear there's a household out there that is worse off than us. And so they need it more than us. I've also spoken to people who've never been in this situation before, right? And they lean on family and friends to help them. But at this point, we have, very dedicated staff to this program that are wanting to help our families and is willing to go that extra mile to ensure that they don't need to worry about losing the roof over their head. And it's not shame. It's just apply. We're here to help you. So just wanted to echo Laurie's what she shared.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Anything else from our panelists? All right. Well, to our panelists, to all of you, thank you so much for taking the time to share this information and this knowledge and experience with everybody. Thank you to our attendees who chose to join our panel. For the other panels that you weren't able to join, there will be recordings available so that you can be able to catch up on all the panels that were available for this conference. Wishing everybody a great day. For those of you who are going to go ahead and join other panels, just go ahead and click your back button and it'll take you to your list to join future panels. There is going to be a little break between now and the next one for you guys to just get more comfortable and everything. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day. Have a safe weekend. And please don't hesitate to reach out to any of the contacts provided on this presentation should you need more information.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Bertha.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.